The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, there's shows, and we got a big one lined up for you today. Josh Pate will join us from Late Kick Josh. We look forward to visiting with him. He's got some strong thoughts on what's going to happen in Norman, Oklahoma. We'll talk to him about Nico Iamaleava as well. Plus, Jimmy Hyams joins us, our usual Wednesday guest, and we're going to discuss, could you ever see a scenario in which Josh Heupel mends the very, very blown apart bridges to Oklahoma, and could Oklahoma ever make a run at him? Jimmy's got some insight into that. I don't think it's a concern, but we shall discuss it. Look forward to that. Also, Jimmy's perspective on, is Nico the most complete quarterback since? I think right now it's since Peyton Manning, and I'm not sure that when you talk about mobility, you have to kind of weigh that, Caleb, with his overall mental acumen of the game. So while one may be stronger in another area and one may be stronger in another, I don't know how we define complete, but I think Nico's going to be in that conversation at some point.
I agree. And I think it's more about what coaches are willing to do with Nico that they have not been willing to do with Tennessee quarterbacks in the past. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I've watched Tennessee a long time, and there are very few quarterbacks I have seen them take early. I mean, it's early. It's only 3 games, but I've seen Josh Heupel take risk with Nico that I haven't seen any quarterback or any coach take with a quarterback. I mean, the closest that I've seen them be relied on this heavily was, and we'll get to it, was Eric Ainge in the mid-2000s. I think in 2006 he set a record for pass attempts for Tennessee that year, but they had no running game. And it wasn't like they took a lot of risk with Eric Ainge. It was still very, you covered that team, Dave. It was Robert Meacham and get him the ball.
Yes. All right. So Josh Pate coming up. We look forward to that in hour number 2. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for me so we can bring more people into the channel. Our poll question is already up, and turn the notifications on so you know we drop new stuff. You never know when news breaks. We're going to be there. Also, Cooper Mason. Perhaps we add another show to the lineup before too terribly long. Click like and subscribe. Again, we appreciate that. So we're going to get to today's tough question. But Caleb, I want to start, well, it has to do with the poll question. So let's just go ahead and tie them all together. First of all, let me ask you this, Cooper. What should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Cooper. I appreciate that. It is time for today's tough question, and it's brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Other attorneys say they'll go to trial. They won't. banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right. My question is, should Tennessee fans be okay with this talent fee, which is essentially just a season ticket price increase? So the poll question is on our YouTube page. Take a part in that, as it's pretty simple. Tennessee's talent fee / season ticket price hike is price gouging or necessary. Caleb, it has to be one or the other in the way you phrased it. Necessary would be that the Vols are going to have to pay out about $35 million in revenue sharing once Congress settles how much the players are going to get. And we think it's about $35 million. Price gouging, on the other hand, would be just taking advantage of a fan base that is uber excited. Really haven't played anybody yet. So, Caleb, if you had to choose, which of the two would you choose? Price gouging or necessary? And we want to hear your comments in the message board as well, and we'll share those. Caleb?
Well, you bring up something that's interesting, so I will get into that. But first, I think it's necessary. Now, okay, let me take a step back. It's never necessary because there are a bunch of it, and I'm just going to say it, a bunch of administrators in the university and in the business world and in the NCAA that make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars and make way more than they're worth and what they contribute to college football. We can agree with that, right, Dave?
Yes.
Yes. So from that perspective, it is price gouging because there's a lot of people collecting salaries they shouldn't be collecting, and a lot of people who maybe should be collecting salaries are getting too big of salaries. That part's true. So in that regard, it's price gouging. But in the vacuum of we have to hit this number so we can get this X amount of players, this isn't price gouging. It's necessary, and it's absolutely necessary, and it was targeted. Dave and I spoke on the phone last night about this, and Dave kind of corrected me, but I'm still sticking to my guns on this, which is that if you're going to have to raise money from somebody, if you're going to have to raise prices on somebody, raise them on the people who can afford them the most. And most likely season ticket holders can afford them a lot more than students, for instance. Students do have to pay to go to games, and I think there are market rate increases for students year to year. But they're not price gouging the students. They're going for the season ticket holders, which, let's just be honest, that's in the 1%. They're in the 1%ers of income of Tennessee fans. By and large.
I did a little bit. That's true. I did a little bit of research, ask around, and basically for a good seat in the lower bowl, we're talking about roughly a hike of about $2,000 when you increase donations and when you increase the ticket prices, which are sure to come. So that's a rough estimate. I mean, to me and you, that would be too much. I mean, I've got an HD TV. I would stay at home. So that's a lot. Here's the other issue, the big issue that I have with it, guys. Listen, they've made it a spectacle. There are people in the national media that call Neyland Stadium the absolute best place to watch a game. And that's great. And it's cool. And they got all the lights and they got Stir the Pearl. And that's fantastic. But the simple fact is, if I went to you and I said, hey, I've got tickets to the Broadway show. I'm friends with the guy that manages the venue, and he's going to give me 8 tickets, and you have to buy them. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you that 4 of the performances are going to be so bad that you're going to get up and walk out of the middle. Okay, now that to me is where Tennessee is right now. So it's not so much that they're raising ticket prices, is that if you're doing this, especially with a college football playoff that allows you to stumble, it's time to bring back the Notre Dames, the Miamis, Ohio State, Southern California, whoever you want to name, and have some big time home and home series, because you can lose that game. And I understand that the SEC is difficult enough. But those are the type of things that will help Tennessee in recruiting. Not the Mayo Classic in Charlotte. Yes, that gives you some exposure in that market. But if you sit down in front of a kid and say, hey, let's say a kid's from Charlotte even. Hey, you get to play in the Rose Bowl and your family's just 3 hours away from Knoxville, as opposed to you get to play in the Mayo Bowl. I mean, what's the bigger recruiting advantage? To me, a premier opponent on the schedule is an absolute must. It has to happen. And I believe they don't play any Power 5 team until 2007, Caleb, when they play Wisconsin, I believe it is. So, Caleb, that's my issue, is you've got to bring in some better opponents.
Okay, but here's my question on that. And I get your point, and particularly since season tickets are home regular season games. But from a recruiting perspective, does that hold water anymore when you got the college football playoff down the road, so you're going to play national games if you do your part, no matter what? I mean, it's not – I mean, I get if it's 1989 and you have 10 games and 7 are, like, within your state or in the conference. And so, okay, this is like your one chance to go national. You get to do this once or twice a year. But now, if you're going to the college football playoff and it's a 12-team college football playoff and you're playing 4 games, arguably in 4 different locations. Is it really a recruiting draw anymore to say, hey, you can go play in the Rose Bowl this week for this game?
To play in premier games would be, to me, and I misspoke. 2027, Tennessee's scheduled to play Nebraska. 2026, they're scheduled to play Furman, and then at Nebraska, Western Michigan. So you're going to have a good matchup in Neyland Stadium 3 years from now in 2027. In 2025, you play Syracuse and Atlanta for the Chick-fil-A game. You play ETSU at home, UAB at home, New Mexico State at home. Caleb, for the fans that are doling out this type of cash, I want to see one premier non-conference game. Now, I would really like to ask Josh Heupel what he thought about that because, well, I know he wouldn't tell me, but there's 2 schools of thought. You're already playing a tough enough schedule in the SEC, make a bunch of patsies, and I could certainly make an argument for that. But by the same token, with a college football playoff, as I mentioned before, you could slip up against a quality opponent and still make the college football playoff. So right now, we're in unknown territory. We don't know how the college football playoff is going to truly judge teams when you get to 10 to 12 as far as who they played. So everything's kosher right now. But I'm telling you, but 2026, when you have an opening, and you'll play Nebraska, and beyond that, you better have a Power 5 opponent on the schedule in Neyland Stadium every single year. That, to me, is just a no-brainer from a marketing standpoint. And obviously, Tennessee Athletic Director Danny White knows marketing pretty well.
Oh, yes, he absolutely does. I think that, again, this kind of depends on what the rest of the country's doing. And I think that you don't want to put yourself at a decided disadvantage. By and large, I agree with you. And the biggest reason I agree with you is I think the college football playoff to a degree is going to go the route of the NCAA tournament, which is they are going to reward schedule strength. You probably agree with me on that too, right? That they're going to really favor that if they're anything like the selection committee.
They kind of did in 2022, I guess, with Alabama over Tennessee, maybe.
They did last year with Alabama over Florida State.
That's true.
I mean, yeah. And so they're definitely going to do it with a 12 team. Basically, your model is what you're talking about is the basketball model. And we're going to give Bruce Pearl credit here for a minute. When Bruce Pearl went to Tennessee, you talk about him being the cheerleader and things like that, and he was all of those things. But what was the one thing Bruce Pearl did, Dave? He went out of his way to ink deals with every high-profile basketball program he possibly could. And not only did it help Tennessee get higher seeds than maybe they should have in the NCAA tournament under him, but they brought half the Elite Eight to Knoxville 3 years in a row. And that was one of the biggest reasons that Thompson Bowling Arena became one of the top 5 basketball home court advantages in the country, was because Bruce Pearl was saying, in his mind, it was, I don't even care if I lose. I want these guys coming to Knoxville because I want the fan base excited to see these teams play. And it worked. And I think that's actually established a long-term interest in Tennessee basketball. Is that fair to say? Because of doing that.
I think it's very fair to say. I think that by playing who they played, that Tennessee basketball feels like a basketball school. And it's not just because they made the Elite Eight. It's because of who Bruce Pearl played and to some extent who Rick Barnes has played as well. Success ultimately will dictate if this is the right move or not. To me, though, the other factor is I would wait until Josh Heupel truly proves something. I would wait until Josh Heupel advanced in the playoffs. I mean, he just got a big raise. You're paying for that in some shape, form, or fashion. And now there's this ticket price increase. I have no problem with Tony Vitello getting a raise and with his players getting cash, which is legal. That's not debatable. They have to get some of the cash. But Caleb, that's my other issue with it is, I'm not from Missouri, but I'm going to show me state of mind. And Josh Heupel shown me a lot, but he hasn't shown me that he can win a championship or even get to a championship game yet. Your take on that? Today's Tough Question brought to you by Banks and Jones. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? Banks & Jones, T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Okay, do I have a point? Would Tennessee have this? I think there's some blowback, some backlash from some people, at least on my Facebook account and in my email. Would they have that if Josh Heupel had done what Tony Vitello has done? I mean, do you disagree that you should have waited a little bit to show some more success by the football program?
No, and here's why. And this goes to the other side. This was going to happen at some point. And you could actually argue doing this was to help breed success so they can actually pay the players that they want to get. The timing of this has everything to do with how good Tennessee's doing right now and the excitement. Danny White wanted to make this announcement right now with everybody thrilled about the state of the program. If this announcement was made right after Butch Jones said Tennessee's champions of life in 2016, I mean, Dave, what type of revolt would that be?
Oh, bad. And I think Tennessee's going to face a serious backlash if Tennessee loses to Oklahoma. And I think Tennessee's going to win. I'll have my prediction for you tomorrow, and I've been nailing it this year. So I think Tennessee's going to win and actually cover. I don't mind telling you that. But if they were to lose to Oklahoma, if something bad were to happen, then you're going to get that blowback. Not only is this team overinflated because of the three teams that they played aren't very good, but now I have to pay more to see it. I mean, that's why I don't understand the timing of it at all. This is something, and let's face it, this was leaked to On3. I mean, there's no question about that. I don't understand why they leaked it when they did. Well, they sent out emails, actually, is what they did. So to the season ticket holders, but I would have waited. I would have waited till the off week or something. I don't understand the timing of it whatsoever.
Well, I understand the timing. They absolutely did this because they wanted to make sure they did it before Tennessee loses to Oklahoma. As bad as it will look now, this is covering their bases. You don't want to make this announcement and Tennessee lose to Oklahoma. Then it's really bad.
Okay, let me tell you something right now. Tennessee would not have done this, and if so, would have received incredible blowback from the fans, if not for one game. Alabama 2022.
That's hot.
Tell me I'm wrong.
1,000%. As a matter of fact, I mean, Tennessee, I had said for years that they were, I said this in a very negative way, that for about 10, 15 years, they have become the most predictable program, which is the sense of they'll run the tables against their South Carolinas and Kentuckys, but the minute they were to face an Alabama or Georgia and everybody was excited, they would lay an egg and humiliate themselves. That win changed that whole narrative. I mean, without that win, that narrative still applies without that win, right, Dave?
General Nealon, great point. Thought the whole pilot branding was supposed to relieve pressure on the common fan. Guess not.
Guys, Tennessee's trying to buy a championship. That's what you have to do in this age. Okay? I mean...
Okay, but these are the same fans, Caleb. Here's the problem I have. These are the same fans that sat through a decade of duty. I mean, they're the same ones. I mean, I just don't think now's the time. I think after the season, you could say this. If Tennessee's successful, perhaps there are financial reasons and donors would like to know ahead of time. Well, I'll tell you, because it's a charitable donation. So a lot of these corporations they make those decisions in fourth quarter. Okay, that's part of the reason that it's now. But still, I would have waited a little bit longer to roll this out there. You brought in a lot more money from Pilot, then you can bring in more money from the fans. That's the way I would have handled it.
Well, okay, but see, Dave, the reason I'm having I agree, but I'm more buying into the idea that they're having to do this no matter what, and they're trying to maximize the revenue period, because Danny White realizes with the way college football is going, the money you're going to drive in is going to be what brings it all in. And so You got to do what you got to do. And again, if he was targeting students, I'd be all after you. I'd be all after. But I got to be consistent here. And I said this. The biggest scam in sports is when owners are like, you should support your team even when they're losing. That is just an excuse to say, buy my product even if it sucks. And in no other business would you be asked to do that. However, I also say, well, if the product's thriving and people want it and there's a demand for it, capitalism says it's more than fair to raise prices then. Everybody does that across the world. That's how markets work. And right now, Tennessee is doing so well. They're not asking you to be loyal to Tennessee when they're losing. They're saying, you guys are really interested in the program. There's a demand. I think we might raise our prices a little bit. Only on season ticket holders, which is the top 1% of 1%.
Jimmy Hyams in 2 minutes. We look forward to visiting with Jimmy. Hang tight. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll discuss the Oklahoma connection with Josh Heupel. Also, where does Nico rank as far as most complete quarterback that Jimmy has seen all around? 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Fifth year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare!
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2018 Ford Mustang Convertible, 24,550, 2023 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend, 29,789, 2022 Ford Escape SEL all-wheel drive, 26,975. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, here we go. Let's bring in our very special guest. His appearance is brought to you by Ray Varner Ford. And I will tell you one thing about Ray Varner Ford is I've been a fan for a long time. Local, you can trust, innovation you can't afford. So Ray Varner Ford, and the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. So let's bring Jimmy in here as he's nice enough to join us, formerly of the Sports Animal and just about every Hall of Fame you can imagine. So we appreciate his perspective. Jimmy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm sorry we're a little late. Caleb just could not be quiet.
Oh, my gosh.
Hey, well, you got something to say it. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Before we move on to a guy named Nico, I want to ask you real quick what you thought about Tennessee's ticket price increase, talent fee.
I disagree with it wholeheartedly. I think it's absurd. There are a lot of fans, first off, that are really on the borderline of, you're raising the ticket price, period, right? You're raising it for students. You're raising it for everybody. Now you're going to put a 10% tax on NIL. There are a ton of fans out there that don't believe in NIL, that don't want to contribute to it. But by the same token, you've got a collective out there in Inspire Sports that's raised over $20 million. You got the Boost Her Club. You got the Tennessee Fund. You got so many other avenues of which you've raised plenty of money to pay the $22 million they're talking about. So I really strongly disagree with this. Most things Danny White's done, I'm on board with it. This one, I am not.
Yeah, strong stuff. Jim did want to talk a little bit of Nico Iamaleava, and the question that I will ask you is he the most complete Tennessee quarterback since Peyton Manning? I know we're saying this just 4 games in, and there's a Dobbs out there and a Hooker out there, but do you think he's the most complete all around?
I'm not ready to go there yet. Is he better than Hendon Hooker? I think he could be.
Okay.
I mean, rhetorically, is he better than Hooker? Hooker was brilliant his last year at Tennessee. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate. He probably would have gone to New York if he'd not been hurt against South Carolina. What I want to see is, can Nico score 52 points against Alabama? Can he score 40-something against Florida? I need a bigger sample size before I make that statement. Does he have all the tools to be the most complete quarterback since Peyton Manning? Yes. In fact, he's got a tool Manning didn't have, and that's the ability to run. So I think he can. I think he can go down as one of the all-time greats at Tennessee. But it's just hard for me to pull the trigger after watching him play 4 games, 2 awful opponents, 1 overrated opponent. Well, 2 overrated opponents: North Carolina State and Iowa. So I need to see more of a sample size, and I need to see. Let's see what he does in Oklahoma. Let's see what he does in Norman. Well, if he lights up the Sooners, then I'm going to be swayed a little bit more. But right now, I wouldn't put him past Hooker at this moment.
All right.
Okay, so let me set up the poll question real quick. And Caleb, I want you in there. Hit the like and subscribe button. Vote on this. Nico Iamaleava is the most complete Tennessee quarterback skills-wise since Hendon Hooker, Tyler Bray, Peyton Manning. I'll update you on the results. But Caleb, roll, sir.
Yeah, so Jimmy, I get what you're saying about, and I don't want to go better yet, because as Dave just mentioned, I put Tyler Bray in this category, and I don't think any of us consider Tyler Bray a top 10 quarterback in Tennessee history as an actual, in terms of production. However, in terms of actual skills, I think we all agree he's probably top 5. So as far as skills go, wouldn't you say Nico Iamaleava has more tools than any quarterback since Peyton Manning?
No, I don't. I can't say that he's got more tools than Hendon Hooker.
Really?
Why would you? Why would you?
Well, he throws a lot. He throws over the field a lot more. I mean, over the middle of the field a lot more than Hendon Hooker.
Against whom?
That's a fair point. So. You don't put it. Let me ask you this: do you think, from what you've seen so far, are the coaches doing more things with Nico than they did with Hendon Hooker?
I don't think so. Hooker was more involved in the run game so far, right? Mm-hmm. There were more zone reads in which he kept it. Look, part of my concern here also is is really good in quick decision making. All right. Hooker's last year at Tennessee, he didn't make too many mistakes decision making wise, right? He threw 2 interceptions. Nico's already thrown 2. So part of it's decision making. What's Nico's decision making going to be like when he plays very good defenses? And Oklahoma's one of them, by the way. Oklahoma's got a really good defense. What's his accuracy going to be when he throws over the middle against defensive backs that can cover? So I'm putting the brakes on this. I'm not ready to declare him all this. Do I think he's an extraordinary talent? Yes, I do. Jamarcus Russell was a talent too. So I'm just saying I want to hold off and see what he does against better competition with more with more games under his belt.
I think we're also comparing Nico to Hendon Hooker when Hooker had been around the program, was more established, and been around college football for, I think, roughly 18 years. So I don't know if you saw Hendon Hooker play at Virginia Tech. I didn't. I didn't know the future was going to bring him to Tennessee. But if we made that comparison, would it be more apt? Would that be more fair to Nico and all involved?
Nico is head and shoulders better, in my opinion, than what Hendon Hooker was at Virginia Tech. I saw Hooker play at Virginia Tech some.
Okay.
I saw him have 2 games in which he rushed for over 150 yards. You won't see Nico do that at Tennessee or at any time during his college career. But I also think that Hooker was not in a system that really took advantage of the things that he could do. And when he got to Tennessee, he was in that system. And I think the system fit Hooker perfectly. I think it fits Nico perfectly. And that's why I think both, Hooker already did it. I do think Nico's going to put up some extraordinary numbers. But what if he throws 10 interceptions this year?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he will. But what if he does? I just needed more of a sample size before I crown him at an elite level, although I think he's got the potential to be elite.
Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. Be sure you've got the notifications on. We top 6,000 subscribers, and that's thanks to you. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for being a part of the program weekdays at 10 a.m. So the poll question, Nico is the most complete Tennessee quarterback skills-wise. Since Jimmy, where would you think it would fall? I don't know. Can you see the YouTube channel? You may know.
No, but I heard what you said. I think that your vote's going to be he's the most complete quarterback since Peyton Manning.
Well, Hendon Hooker actually leads at 53%. Tyler Bray, it's not a beer bottle throwing contest. He's at 11%. And Peyton Manning at 36%, Caleb.
So, Jimmy, let's bring up so we agree that, okay, you don't say Hendon Hooker, but we agree that let's go back to somebody like Tyler Bray. Let's talk about just raw skill set, what you see from Nico Iamaleava versus what you see from a Tyler Bray, who I maintain had, whatever you think about him as a player, the most special arm of any quarterback I've ever seen play at Tennessee. Who has more tools between those two?
Between Nico and Tyler Bray?
Yeah.
Nico. I think Nico.
Physically?
Yeah, and there were some things about Bray. And when you think about complete quarterback, I also think of IQ, right? Isn't that part of being a really good quarterback?
Yeah, but I was talking about physical tools, but yeah.
Okay, physical tools. I thought Bray had an exceptional arm and was accurate for the most part. I also saw him in a spring game go, 3 for 23? When he was just a trophy.
Oh, wow. Really?
I remember
that.
No,
yeah,
I know he was 3 for 23.
It was something like that. I mean, it was so, and the point, he didn't care. He didn't care about the spring game, so he went out there and he laid an egg. But as far as his ability to throw a football, I thought he was extraordinary. I thought he was really accurate. I thought he threw a good deep ball. I'm not sure that Nico isn't as accurate as what Tyler Bray was. And by the way, Bray he had a couple of really good receivers in Dayrick Rogers and Justin Hunter, right?
And Cordarrelle Patterson.
I'm sorry?
And Cordarrelle Patterson is last year.
Yeah. So, and I don't care necessarily what 2 of them did, or all 3 of them did as receivers in the NFL. They were really good in college. So he had some talent to throw to. I think Nico's got some talented guys to throw to. But Bray was had a very talented arm. But, man, there's no way I'd hitch my wagon to that guy.
No. Unless you were hitching to the back of a water jet ski. Okay, I want to ask you, in today's college football, okay, this is going to be an oversimplification because we're going to say that Nico is incredibly athletic, has a great arm, and back in the day, Peyton Manning was not supposed to have as good an arm as Ryan Leaf, and we think that Peyton is incredibly intelligent. That's not to downplay Nico's intelligence, but what I want to ask you, in this day and age of college football, where offensive linemen are allowed to run about 5 yards downfield, and there's no illegal lineman downfield, where a quarterback has to run, would you rather have Peyton Manning or Nico? And Jimmy's appearance brought to you by Ray Varner Ford.
4x4 Active, $46,529. 24 Ford Big Bend Bronco 4-door, $40,949. 24 Ford F-150 Super Crew 4x4 STX, $46,214.
Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
All right, so in today's college football, who would you rather have, Jimmy?
Well, I hesitate again because of the sample size.
Right.
But the way the game is played, I would have to lean toward Nico because of his running ability. Now, having said that, Manning put up some extraordinary numbers. You can still be a great quarterback in today's game without having the wheels. And Manning was a great quarterback in the NFL without having the wheels, and the same at Tennessee. But boy, when you've got the ability to have an RPO, when you got the ability to have a zone read, you got the ability to have a quarterback that is a running threat, that makes it harder on a defense. But there was nobody better at dissecting a defense and exploiting the weakness than Peyton Manning was. He just couldn't do it with his legs.
Yeah, I think he'd be very good just from the pocket in this offense. But you're right. That would limit what Josh Heupel would be able to do. Caleb?
Well, Jimmy, that was bold by you because I noticed I would never take Jimmy to Vegas with me. Jimmy does not. I realize Jimmy's very rational. You're too rational sometimes, Jimmy. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, I got a quick Vegas story. First time I went to Vegas, I played 21. I played blackjack. I played craps. I played all that. And let's just say I met my minimum for losing. The next time I went, all I did was bet on sporting events, and I paid for my trip. It was a tough learning lesson, but I found my lane and I stayed in it.
That's smart.
See, that's the problem is I love throwing dice. It's so fun. And I mean, I know I'm going to lose eventually, but, really, since I don't drink anymore, that kind of takes the one thing out of it. Like if I could throw dice and just break even and have a few drinks, I was okay with it. But yeah, I don't do that. And now they charge you at casinos. It's a whole different Vegas. We need the mob to get back in charge of Vegas.
Oh, absolutely. But Jimmy, just before we get out of this, okay, so you can get one of three. Okay, right. So you can get what you think, just for a minute, bear with me. You project what you think might happen with Nico and Josh Heupel's offense. Not what you've seen, but what you think might happen. You can get that. You can get Josh Dobbs and Mike DeBoard's offense, or Peyton Manning and David Cutcliffe's offense. Which one are you taking?
Boy, that's a good question. I'll eliminate Dobbs right away because he was so inaccurate as a passer from time to time. Great runner, one of the best running quarterbacks I've seen, but that's what's held him back in the NFL. Is you can't count on him to be accurate consistently. Peyton Manning put up some fantastic numbers. I'm going to lean toward Nico, and part of the reason is they run a hurry-up offense. There's more. You run more plays. There's more opportunities. Peyton Manning, I don't know what his highest scoring average was at Tennessee, but I know it wasn't 46 points a game. And that's what Hendon Hooker did. And I think Nico's capable of doing that. I mean, right now they're averaging over 60. Now that's not going to hold, but I think that Nico's numbers are going to be more eye-popping than Peyton Manning. So I'm going to go with Nico in that one.
Caleb, are we talking about today's college football?
I kind of made it relevant to the time period, but I guess we could say it in the way of today's college football.
I think, Jimmy, I'm going to go old school. I think I would take, even in today's college football, if you gave me the combo, a cut, and Peyton, I think I would take that, and I would give up on the running ability, but because I think Peyton was just and cut were just that good. I mean, you're picking between two supermodels right now.
Yeah, and also looking back at now, the one dig against Manning was he never beat Florida, and that's only 3 games, not 4. His freshman year, he hardly played. So that I hear this, Florida beat him 4 times. That's bull. It was 3. But he also scored 41 against Alabama. I remember that when they went down to Birmingham. He scored a lot of points against Georgia, but now this Georgia team is not like the Georgia team that Manning had to face. But Manning put up a lot of points and a lot of numbers against not only good defenses, but against good defensive coordinators. I mean, I remember he torched Joe Lee Dunn when Joe Lee Dunn was at Arkansas. And Manning and Cutcliffe outfoxed him. So that is a hard one to call. But ultimately, I think the numbers that Nico puts up and the team scoring is going to be greater than what Manning did. Now, is that a little bit unfair? Yeah, it is. Because Tennessee did not run the warp speed under Manning that they do right now. But if you just go strictly by the numbers, I think Nico's going to put up better numbers than Manning did.
All right, Jimmy, here we go. Now, this is going to get some fans upset with me, but that happens from time to time. Actually, I think they'll like what I have to say. I just don't think they like the topic at all. I'm going to say bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, that Tennessee fans don't ever have to worry about Josh Heupel flirting with or going back to Oklahoma. I'm a guy that's very cynical of coaches, but I genuinely believe that he loves it at Tennessee and that he got a raw deal at Oklahoma. So I'm going to say bank on it. Josh Heupel would never, ever go back to Oklahoma. Are you willing to go that far?
Yes, I am. And why would you leave? Why would you leave Tennessee for Oklahoma? Look, there was no love lost when he got fired. I asked him during the offseason, I said, when's the last time you've been back to Norman? I don't know, about 10 years ago. Well, 10 years ago is when he got fired. So I don't think there's I don't think he would go back, in particular with Stoops still around the program. But why would you leave Tennessee for Oklahoma? Isn't Tennessee as good a job right now as Oklahoma?
Probably better because of Danny White and the way he's able to prosgouge his fans and get corporations to give him loads of cash.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Jimmy. So let me play devil's advocate because I guess I got to be the bad guy in this segment. Say Oklahoma decides to just take Bob Stoops out behind the woodshed and shoot him in the head. I'm kidding. I'm joking, but like this decides to fully cut ties with them. You're Josh Heupel. Don't you think that there is a little bit of a soft spot still for your alma mater? I mean, Johnny Majors. What's the difference between Josh Heupel doing it and Johnny Majors, who left Pitt, a great situation at Pitt that won a national title, to come home to Tennessee, which was as bad a program as you could take over at the time, but he did it because it was his alma mater.
Because Majors didn't get fired by Tennessee. And unfairly fired by Tennessee, I might add. The offense at Oklahoma was fine. And in fact, not only did they fire Heupel, they fired Mike Norvell, who, by the way, is a pretty good football coach. And Stoops kept his brother. I'm sorry?
Jay Norvell.
And I didn't hear
you. Go ahead,
you.
Jim. There's a little bit of a connection. You go.
Yeah. So lost my train on that. So Majors was never fired. Heupel got fired. Heupel was bitter about that. Stoops kept his brother there. And while he said, I'm not going to make a scapegoat of Norvell and Heupel, he exactly made a scapegoat of them. So, and then when Heupel left, he went to Missouri and had great success. He went to Central Florida and won a lot. I think he won 28 games, but their offense was very good. Now look what he's done at Tennessee. I think the loyalty that Tennessee gave him in this job, working for Danny White, I don't think there's any chance he goes back to Oklahoma. Yes, it is his alma mater, but Saban didn't go back to Kent State.
True. I got
I think that's a little bit disingenuous.
I got another bank on it. Bank on it. Tennessee's Josh Heupel, if given the opportunity, will run up the score against Oklahoma. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. Life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial Banks for personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made better. I want to see what Jimmy has to say about that after we hear from Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank, life made better.
All right, so bank on it, Jimmy. Tennessee, Josh Heupel, if he gets an opportunity, will score a few more points than he needs to against Oklahoma.
Absolutely. I'd go to Vegas and put a line on that one.
That's the easiest one.
There's no doubt. If they're on the 1 yard line and they're up by 14 and there are 20 left, he's going to cram it in the zone. Yes. No doubt.
Caleb, do you have any doubt, Caleb?
No, I have no doubt he would do that whatsoever. I mean, so Jimmy, let me ask you this, because this is all interesting what we're talking about. You brought up in the last segment Peyton Manning and Peyton Manning and David Cutcliffe just lighting up Jolie Dunn. That's what made Peyton Manning a national name, was that week at Arkansas. And I think Tennessee, Cutcliffe, and Fulmer had kind of a plan to kind of propel Peyton Manning into the national status. Do you think Josh Heupel has been saving Oklahoma for the game to turn Nico into a national superstar, where he just gets to humiliate Oklahoma, his alma mater that fired him, and use his quarterback that is his prize bull, for lack of a better term, to do it?
I would say not saving him, but hopeful that he'll do it. Because there's no guarantee. Because Oklahoma does have a very good defense. I do believe that Tennessee's going to have some plays that we have not seen yet this season. I think that Heupel's got a few things drawn up that to try to use against Oklahoma that would surprise them, not counting an onside kick. So I do think that, I think he is hopeful that they will roll it up and they will be able to do that. And if he has the opportunity to put up big numbers for Nico, he'll do it. So I'm going to say more hopeful than just saving it up.
Jimmy, I don't mean this as a shot at Josh Heupel, but I've never covered a coach that was as audacious in his aggressiveness. It's very Steve Spurrier-like with the onside kick and all of that, and the late score against Missouri in 2022. Are there any repercussions for that ever anymore? Because it used to be you would be a bad sport, you'd be a bad person, and you're running up the score. But I don't hear anybody say that nowadays. It's just like, oh, Kent State, kill them.
Well, I do. I hear it. I think it cost them. I think it cost them the Missouri game. I think that Eli Drinkwitz and those Missouri players had that marked on their schedule. I didn't think it was a good thing to do at the time, and I think there was extra motivation for Missouri to beat Tennessee. And not only they beat them, they clocked them. Was it 33-7? And I think it came back to bite them. Now, at least against Kent State, although I don't actually think Heupel wanted to onside kick that. I've had a theory tossed at me that was a special teams coach that saw that Kent State drop back on kick coverage, and the special teams coach called it. I don't think – and if Heupel in the second half did not run it up on Kent State, right? They had 65 points at halftime. They kicked 2 field goals in the second half. But as far as being audacious and scoring late, I think he has done some of that. I do remember him making a comment after running it up on somebody. I don't know what's right or not, because I've got backup players that want to score, and I get that. But sometimes it's not the backups. Sometimes he's left some starters in the game late and scored some more points on people. I hear it from some fans and some boosters that don't like that style. So I guess we travel in different circles, Dave, but I do hear that from people. I know some people like, well, you got to it's your job to stop them. Okay, it shouldn't necessarily be your job to stop starters when it's 60-0. So I see that differently, and I'm not a big fan of it myself.
Fair enough. I can understand that. I just don't. I think it did hurt him against Missouri, but does it hurt him when he does it against Kent State, or is it just kind of cute? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I thought that was a little over the top. Now, I don't want to lay blame at Josh Heupel's feet, because I'm sure you remember the Britton Colquitt, and we've talked about, Caleb and I have talked about this, the Britton Colquitt fake in Gainesville, where he had do you remember that he was punting and he had the option to throw it if they were in a certain coverage, but you weren't supposed to do it on your own side of your 40, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And so, I don't know. Maybe it was Turbyville, maybe it was Eckler, but I wouldn't do that again. I would take the onside play out of the playbook when you're playing a team like Kent State.
I would too. I didn't like it. Tim Irwin, who I shared the show with on Sunday morning, co-host, he called it Bush League. He didn't like it. I didn't care for it either. Regardless of who called it, it shouldn't have been done. And yeah, they ran it up on Kent State. They called a timeout late in the first half to score another touchdown when it was 58-0, right? So, I'm not a fan of that. Now, some people say, well, you got to do that to impress the pollsters. Okay. If the pollsters are that stupid to not know the difference in a 40-point win and a 71-point win, they shouldn't be voting. The other part of that is It doesn't matter what the pollsters are saying right now. It's the selection committee. That's the ones you got to worry about. And they got 13 people there, and a lot of them are coaches. Coaches don't like the score being run up on them. So this thought about, well, you got to run up the score on the Kent State to impress voters. That's ludicrous. That has no, I disagree with that 100%. And again, it's not what the AP says; it's what the College Football Playoff Selection Committee says.
Okay, Jimmy. So let me ask you this: are you going to consider a Bush League if Josh Heupel does it to Oklahoma after what Oklahoma did to him and scapegoated him 10 years ago? Are you going to say that's Bush League, or is that fair game because it's Oklahoma and they deserve
it's
it?
Fair game.
They did to Heupel.
He gets a pass based on what they did to him. Yeah, there's extra motivation for that. There was not for Kent State, but no, I wouldn't get in on that. I wouldn't even get on him if he scores a late touchdown to run it up on him. But you got to remember this: if you do that, you're putting yourself in a position of adding extra motivation for that team the next year. And I think that matters. I know some people don't, but I absolutely think it mattered to Missouri. And Eli Drinkwitz talked about it after the game.
No,
So
I think it matters.
matter.
Yeah, Jimmy, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but people have said, oh, once the game kicks off, it's just a game. Well, no, that's not the point. It's how hard do you practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because you hate that team that you're about to play on Saturday. And I will add this to the equation. A very good source told me that Missouri came out in a totally different defense than they had run all year. I don't know if you'd heard that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did. And they came out with a totally different motivation. And so I think that stuff can backfire on you. And I don't think it's necessary. I do believe there should be a place of sportsmanship in the game, except when you're playing Oklahoma.
Fair enough. Jimmy, let's get your score prediction. What do you think happens in Norman sooner or later?
I got Tennessee 38-28. And that may be generous on the points for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's offense is not that good this year. They average less than 350 yards of total offense. Their leading rushers, their quarterback, Jackson Arnold. You know how many yards he's averaging per game on the ground? 53. They don't have a running back that really scares you. They have a really good receiver, a transfer from Purdue named Deion Burks, but I haven't seen a receiver that can take the top off of defense. Now, they've had a couple of receivers that potentially could do that have been injured, and they may return against Tennessee. But I like Tennessee by 10. I think they'll cover.
All right, Jimmy, great stuff as always. Your appearance brought to you by Ray Varner Ford. And I know you're on the YouTuber and you're on with John Pennington. So how do we follow your work?
Well, and with we're doing these rewind interviews. Most recently, it was Tommy Winton. We're going to launch an interview with Randy Sanders on Thursday around 1 o'clock. That's when we typically launch it. You can find it on YouTube. If you have trouble finding Full Disclosure Pro, you can just go to YouTube, type in my name, and it'll take you directly to the interviews that we're doing. So you can find us there. We also do the Sports Source with John Pennington. Doing the round table on Wednesdays from 4 to 5 on the Sports Animal. And your podcast, of course. And then football finals on Saturdays and the Sunday morning show with Tim Irwin. So, boy, that's a lot for a retired guy, isn't it?
Yeah, you're retired like this guy.
Like, that is total bullshit.
Peyton, don't say that. Caleb or Jimmy, have a blessed day, sir. Don't work too hard, and keep track of that grandson you got. I love the Twitter pictures as well because they grow up fast.
Yeah, they do, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Dave, thank you. Caleb, thank you. Appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks. You guys have a good one.
I love that. Jimmy, fantastic there as always. Portions of the program brought to you by our good friends at the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. That's HOOKED for 10% off. We are going to be joined by Josh Pate here momentarily. Also, this day in Tennessee sports history. You give me 2 minutes. But first, please hit the like and subscribe button. Let's bring some more people in here and go ahead and fill in your questions for if you got questions for Josh Pate. And Caleb will reset the poll question. Caleb, do you know what it is yet? You say no, and it's a great tease.
Okay, I do not know yet.
There we go. 2
Jesus.
minutes, and you'll get the new poll question and Josh Pate. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2025 Ford Explorer 4x4 Active, $46,529. 24 Ford Big Bend Bronco 4-door, $40,949. 24 Ford F-150 Super Crew 4x4 STX, $46,214.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
If all the natural beauty around here looks a little fuzzy to you, you may want to consider LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Now with 2 Sevierville locations to serve you, East Tennessee's best eye care is more convenient than ever.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, Josh Pate set to join us here momentarily. You know Josh Pate. KLB's fantastic on the YouTube. And Josh Pate is, my goodness. Would you guess how old Josh Pate is?
I think I know. I think he's 38, right?
We're going to ask him about that. I think there's a mistake on his page. This can't be right. All right, we'll ask him. So how old are you? That's our opening question. This day in Tennessee sports history was one of my favorite moments ever covering the Vols, because I believe it's 20 years ago today. Do I have that right, Caleb? That James Wilhoit kicked a field goal at the end of the Tennessee-Florida game to redeem himself of a missed extra point earlier in the game, in which Tennessee appeared set to win that game. I remember, I'm going to play Uncle Dave with you for a second, Caleb. I remember thinking, okay, this is a super feature. I'm going to go interview his parents, and the rest of the Sentinel guys can handle the locker room. Okay. Well, I didn't do that. And because I tried to interview his parents, and they were so incredibly giddy and giggly that they couldn't even talk. So here's a replay of that play, and I'll never forget the tunnel just underneath that goalpost is where I was going to interview Dr. Wilhoit and his lovely wife, one of my favorite families of all time. So if you don't remember, Tennessee would have tied the game, but James Wilhoit, one of Tennessee's best kickers ever, missed an extra point, which never happened. Tennessee was able to get the ball back, and they were able to set up this 50-yarder. And I'll be honest with you, I had zero doubt that he was going to hit that.
All righty, trying to get it going now. Let's get it to play, and here we go.
James Wilhoit to win it for the Volunteers. Waiting for the snap.
Unbelievable. And I want to be sure and credit the Ball Network for that. As Caleb, I'm not sure where you were during that game. I was in the press box, and I was so close to the Will Hoyt family. That's like what people ask. They give me a hard time about the Cowboys. But like on Sunday, I was happier for Alvin Kamara having a fantastic game than I was about the Dallas Cowboys losing. And I felt like that with the Will Hoyts. I got really close to that family. And I just thought to myself, oh my goodness, to miss an extra point and it cost you the Florida game. I mean, that's how he would have been remembered forever, Caleb, as the kicker who cost them the Florida game.
Oh yeah. And quite honestly, it was, and he admitted it was just totally mental. He just went through the motions, didn't think anything of it, and missed that extra point that day and in that moment. And he was a really good kicker. By the way, he had made a 50-yard field goal the year before at Florida as a true freshman. A lot of people don't remember that. Did you see when he kicked it? If you ever notice on the highlight,
he knows immediately.
He's celebrating before it goes through. He knows he nailed it.
He celebrated. He was celebrating before it passed the 30-yard line. I think it was absolutely phenomenal. So, it's 20 years since James Will Hoyt hit that kick that we'll never forget as Tennessee was able to beat Florida. Portions of the program brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. A wide range of IV treatments designed to help you feel your best, whether you're recovering from illness, prepping for a big event, or just needing an energy boost. That's Peak IV Hydration, peakivhydration.com. We can put that in the message board. This guy's always hydrated and always healthy. He's the epitome of health and college football knowledge. Look at him. Josh Pate joining us now, the YouTube superstar, and just does a fantastic job for 247 Sports and all that he does. And I just want to thank you, Josh, for taking the time to come on.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I don't know if I can agree with all the accolades. My mom would. My grandma would. So I guess that's good enough.
Okay, well, if your mom and grandmother are watching, hit like and subscribe. And go ahead and turn the notifications on. We got to say that instead of call letters nowadays, Josh. But I know that you dropped some Tennessee knowledge. I believe it was last night. And just give me your feel for the Tennessee-Oklahoma game, because there are so many unknowns still headed into the fourth week of the season.
Yeah, so I've been doing national sort of radio hits all morning, and it's always interesting when you get closer to a game, doing shows that focus on a team versus the nation that kind of looks at a game from a distance. The thought nationally is Tennessee just goes into Oklahoma and blows them out. USC, Michigan, same thing. They go into Michigan, they blow them out. And I know why people think that, because I've watched every game for both of these teams this year as well. So there's a thing I try not to do. I try not to go head over heels early in the season for a team that hasn't been tested multiple times. It doesn't mean I don't believe in them. It means I'm not going head over heels. So like with Ole Miss, it would be impossible for me to be head over heels for them right now. With Tennessee, it would be impossible to be head over heels. The thing that I wonder is, with a first-year starter at quarterback like Nico, I can be high on him. I would mention his name in Heisman conversation if I had to right now. But I can still have questions about him experiencing firsts. So this will be a first for him, a true road environment against one of the best defensive play callers that he and Heupel will go against all year. So it's a first. Doesn't mean he doesn't pass it with flying colors. But you said unknown. You didn't say weakness. That is an unknown. I also am very curious on the back end for Tennessee, the secondary. What the three of us would have talked about ad nauseum in July or August about losing all that returning production back there. And then you had an injury at the nickel position, I believe, that cost him the season. We would have said, ooh, that's a big question mark. All right, well, so far this year, they haven't had to pay a price at all for that on the back end. And they may not have to Saturday, because Oklahoma's passing game has not impressed me at all. Whether or not they get Anderson back, we'll have a lot to say about that, I think, along with Burks, because he can't do it all by himself. You haven't had protection enough for Jackson Arnold to be able to do anything through the air. So does that continue? If that continues and just styles play out here, Tennessee overwhelmingly wins this game. The reason I'm cautious about it, even though I picked Tennessee to win the game, the reason I'm cautious about it is because this sport teaches us the same lessons every year. And it's like people choose to get amnesia or they don't choose to get amnesia, but it teaches us the same lessons every year. And what I'm always careful about is, what is a team capable of? All right, define that. Then when they don't do that thing the first few weeks, Oregon, perfect example. If they don't do the thing you think they're capable of, two possibilities. Either you were wrong about what they were capable of, or you were right and it just hadn't clicked for them yet. Oregon finally had it click last week against Oregon State. All right, so all of a sudden they look good. Is this a click game for Oklahoma? If it were to happen, this is where they have aimed to get guys healthy. This is where they have aimed to sort of unlock the playbook and the stuff we always hear in college football. Sometimes that's just window dressing. Sometimes it's legit. Sometimes you think a favorite should be an overwhelming favorite, and then the road does what it does in college football. 3rd and 5+ does what it does on the road to a new starter at quarterback, and someone throws the crowbars in your offensive bicycle spokes, and it is a 23-23 dogfight in the fourth quarter, and you find yourself saying, oh, I guess Oklahoma, I guess this underdog team was a little bit more capable. Well, all I try to do, someone asked for the paper pop in the chat, so there you go. All I try and do is not be caught off guard by it. Look, I have my nervous orange string down here. I just don't want to be caught off guard by it. That's all.
Fair enough.
So
Caleb?
Josh, we got a poll out right now in our chat. They half agree with you. I said Tennessee, Oklahoma will be a shootout, blowout, defensive slugfest. The majority said blowout, but the second largest is defensive slugfest, which is what you predicted on your show last night. So can you dive in a little bit on why you think this is going to be a old school SEC football game with an SEC newcomer?
Yeah, I think Tennessee defensively, one of the more underrated defensive staffs in the country, because no one thinks defense with Tennessee, but that doesn't change the fact that they are. You guys have seen, and I mean nationally, people don't think that way. This is, I think, top to bottom from play calling and defensive support staff, a top 10 unit with Oklahoma as well. So it just profiles as that kind of game. And I also think that you kind of get drunk on the last thing you saw in football and sports in general. And so if the last thing I saw is just Tennessee raining points on Kent State, if my image in my mind of the NC State game is 100 instead of 10-3 near the half with a potential pick that's dropped, like that kind of stuff can cloud the mind to what the reality is. And the reality is Oklahoma does not go into this game, I think, with any illusion about what they are. They're a very incomplete offensive team. I think it profiles similarly with how Michigan has to think in the USC game. That's why I keep mentioning those two, because there's correlation. You got a high-profile offensive attack, an elite play caller, Riley or Heupel coming in, and then you have a home team back against the wall with something to prove that understands we're not scoring 35. We have to win this game complimentary. We have to win this game defensively. And when you got really high-level defensive players that know that all week, and you got a home crowd at your back, it's just, I think that's the kind of game you set up to see.
What do you think the type of pressure, what do you make of so far this year, Nico Iamaleava, and the type of pressure he may have put on himself and the way he's handled it? And where I'm going with this is, it seems like because of the Hendon Hooker success of 2022, teams have sold out with these 3-3-5 defenses to not let Tennessee beat them over the top. And Nico, largely from what I've seen, has taken what the defense gives him. Does that show a level of maturity to you, or what do you see from that?
Yeah, well, that's why it's always important to say first-year starter and not true freshman starter. Dylan Raiola at Nebraska is the latter. Nico's the former. And that's why I don't care if we're talking about the NFL. Unless it is dire straits, you need your guy to come in and go through a year. He was physically capable of playing last year, but there would have been a litany of mental mistakes that he would have made last year that maybe he doesn't make this year. But also, you just learn what it takes to play major college football. You learn what it means to be the quarterback at the University of Tennessee, because it should be one of the most high-profile positions that one could play in all of sports. This is the second most popular sport in the country. Tennessee is one of the premier brands. And so you get a year older, a year wiser, even if you didn't have the experience of starting. It matters. It matters for Arch Manning. It matters for everyone. So then coming into this game, I think what you said there is very appropriate, because I don't necessarily have a guy who listens to the outside noise and takes that to mean I've got to go win a game. It's we've got to go win a game. And if that means Dylan Sampson goes for 220 and averages 6.3 yards per carry because they give it to him, so be it. I think the opposite, though. I think if Sampson can grind out enough yardage to just keep them honest, that's the perfect game for Tennessee, and it's the perfect game for Nico Iamaleava. Now, if he gets rattled, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen that in the history of this sport. But if he gets rattled, I don't think it'll be because mentally he's not capable of meeting the moment. I think it'll just be because he's playing a really good defense, and they're allowed to try too.
Josh, you used to be locked in a studio. Now they've got you out and about everywhere. You're doing great stuff from the sidelines. You're doing interviews with coaches that I specifically wanted to ask you about, because I'm sure they give you a little bit of stuff as off the record. As a consensus, how do coaches view Josh Heupel? And in particular, we were talking about the onside kick against Kent State. Not the most sportsmanlike thing to do, but how do coaches that you talk to view Josh Heupel and his future and potential?
They think of him as an assassin offensively. There is probably no one they universally respect more. It's Riley and it's Heupel. Those are the two in terms of game day offensive tactical play calling that everyone fears when they have the right personnel. The other thing they do is they negative recruit them like I don't know what on the idea that it's just a shot offense. It's just a vertical offense. And they negative recruit offensive linemen that way. They negative recruit running backs that way. And they just hope you're dumb enough to buy into it, because if you watch Tennessee football, you understand how effectively Heupel's teams have run the ball every year. And they're doing it again this year. They will always do that. He knows that. Like you probably heard him a million times say it. At any point when he can tout their success running the ball and he can tout their offensive philosophy, he does it. He's not doing it because he forgot he already said it. He's doing it because he understands they get negatively recruited because the more Tennessee wins, the fact of the matter is the fewer and fewer the bullets are that you can fire at them in terms of production. So then you got to kind of smoke and mirror it in recruiting, and you got to convince guys, instead of you can't win there, it's, well, you won't be used the right way there, both of which are probably lies, but that's a majority of what you hear. And the other thing is coaches understand the sleeping giant that the Tennessee program has been. They say the same thing about A&M, total sleeping giant program. Most of them aren't 20 years old. They're old enough to remember what Tennessee is when it's rolling, when it's one of the best in the country. Nothing's changed about the sport. One of the biggest myths in college football was the sport's changed to the point where Tennessee can't be what Tennessee was. You can say that about Nebraska if you want to, and I'll listen to you. Nothing's changed about this sport that puts Tennessee in any less of a position to be a premier elite program. Tennessee has been in Tennessee's way for a while. Tennessee has now gotten out of Tennessee's way, and the hire of Josh Heupel is a big reason why, a big part of it.
Yeah, Josh, it's funny you bring that up. I'm a U.S. history major and along with a journalism major in college, and I've always said just because something hasn't happened doesn't mean it can't happen or it won't happen. And so thinking of that, comparing Tennessee and Oklahoma as programs, I would say Oklahoma slightly historically is more successful than Tennessee. I'd say they're maybe top 5, Tennessee's top 10. But as a job right now, forget the coaches. If you're a coach, which job would you rather take, Oklahoma or Tennessee?
I'd rather take Tennessee. Oklahoma doesn't take too big a backseat, though. These are both really, really good jobs. So you'd be splitting hairs with me there. I believe in the radius rule. I don't believe in in-state recruiting as a rule. A lot of people knock Tennessee because there aren't as many in-state kids. And in this case, you could knock Oklahoma as well. I want the 6-hour radius. At Oklahoma, I get Dallas, and they recruit Dallas very effectively. I mean, really, really, like they go head-to-head with Texas for the North Texas, the Dallas region, the Red River region. In Tennessee, though, I get most of the state of Tennessee. I get North Georgia. I get Northwest Alabama. I get up into Ohio. I get the Carolinas, Virginia to a certain degree. So I have all the talent I can say grace over, not to mention how nationalized recruiting is now with the portal and NIL, and just the dynamic has changed totally. State lines have never mattered less in talent acquisition than they matter now. So then the next thing I'm going to ask is, do I have administrative alignment? Certainly you've got that at Tennessee. Certainly you've got that at Oklahoma. Am I going to get a bunch of no's when I need changes? Nope. You're going to get checks and boxes that you need checked. So both of these are premier jobs. I mean, I'd slightly lean Tennessee, but that's probably because I grew up closer to Tennessee. Either one of those. I'll tell you what I would do, Caleb. I would let you pick first, and I would happily take the job that's left over.
Yeah, that would work out. Usually after 2 years, I have a pretty good feel for a coach. I don't with Brent Venables. I don't know if he's going to be there in 3 years. I don't know if he's going to win a national championship. The jury is still so out in my mind. What's your take?
We live in a world where Mike Norvell just got within reaching distance of the playoff and hasn't won a game.
I know.
So it's completely fair to have the jury still out and totally sequestered on a coach that's in his third year. I agree with you. So I'm in that boat as well. So that's my personal take on it. But then what I'll do a lot of times, if I trust a program, and Oklahoma's been great, like beyond great at understanding themselves and what they have, multiple sports, not just football. If they're sold enough to extend that guy, even though there was no market for him, no one's coming for Brent Venables, and they voluntarily extended him this past spring, I am going to blindly trust that they know they have the right thing. Their talent acquisition has been great. Their top 10 portal, their top 10 recruiting, the attitude, like the DNA of the program this year is starting to take on what a Brent Venables program looks like it should be. But the follow-up to that is you've always known Oklahoma for scoring. Like you've always thought offense. And so it's a tough inversion of a program's identity to go from what it was under Lincoln Riley for a long time to what it's going to be under Brent Venables. The question is, can you find the balance? They have not been good offensively so far this year. And they're led by the quarterback they chose. Jackson Arnold, out of the entire country, that's the one they wanted. He won the Elite 11 finals. Like, he is their Nico. He's the one they wanted. They got to be better. And so I think it's fair that the jury's still out.
Josh Pate of the Late Kick with Josh Pate, nice enough to join us. Hit that like and subscribe button. Caleb?
Josh, I want to ask you a couple of college football playoff questions because you and I, in many ways, are on a similar wavelength. I've watched your show, and Dave and I do a football IQ segment every Tuesday for dumb things coaches do. I feel like you should do one for dumb things college football administrators do because I know you're very low on them. I have argued that Tennessee should throw the SEC championship game if they get there, and they're
here we go. Oh, let me get the string back out. Okay.
And I have said that I would rather use that effort to play a home game in the first round against a group of 5 school potentially than to try to win the SEC title. And then if you get to the second round as a 5 seed, you play the 4 seed, which will be the Big 12 champion, which will probably be worse than the number 8 seed. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Okay, so this is going to be one of the big debates generically in college football. Here's what's bothering me about it. There is no clear answer here. So the debate is, would you rather have a first round bye or would you rather have a more favorable matchup? Put another way, is it more valuable to get the bye and then maybe face Ohio State in round 2, or play 2 games instead of 1, risk the injury and the wear and tear, but play 2 teams you'll be favored by double digits against? I don't think there's a clear answer there. It's going to be a case-by-case thing every year. But like, let's say Tennessee versus Texas, SEC championship game. Texas wins that thing. They get the 1 seed and a first-round bye. They are guaranteed to play the 8 versus 9 winner. It doesn't get reseeded. So they're guaranteed to play the 8-9 winner. You look at any projection, that 8-9 game is going to be a couple of at-larges that are really good from the SEC and the Big Ten. That's probably what you're looking at. So Texas could draw like Oregon in round 2. Tennessee could have to play round 1, but it's Liberty and then it's Oklahoma State. Those are their first 2 games. And there are people who will call you stupid if you say anything other than I want the 1 seed in the bye. I understand the thinking there, but it is not totally stupid to say I'd rather be a 17-point favorite twice than be a pick'em or a 3-point underdog once in a do-or-die situation. And I understand the increased injury risk that I take on playing the 2 games. So I don't think Tennessee's going to throw the SEC championship game. But let's say they try to win and they lose it. They're not in the worst spot in the world.
No, that's a good point. Josh, we'll let you out of here. Anything you've got coming up or where you headed this week that you want to talk to Tennessee fans about?
Yeah, I don't know how interested they'll be, but I am going to get a tour of the National Weather Service in Norman when I get out there Friday because of my proclivity to storm chase. This is the only time I will have been in the state of Oklahoma not storm chasing. They heard about that. So even in a football trip, I'm going to have a weather component mixed in. So I don't know how much Tennessee fans care about that, but that's what we're doing.
Okay, wait. I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were a storm chaser. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, look, I got the handshake and then the tornado twirl after it. Yeah, anyone who has seen the movie Twisters, it's basically just a documentary of my life.
Except the actor wasn't as good looking. All right, Josh, have a blessed day. It means a lot. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. With Josh Pate. How good was that? Storm chaser. That would scare me to death. My wife hates it when it sprinkles. So if I said we're going to go storm chasing, that would probably be the end of that relationship. She doesn't like storms at all.
Okay, you know what's funny? I don't have a real front porch. I have a slight awning over my house. And when it storms, I kid you not, Dave, I make a glass of whiskey, go outside, sit on my glider, and just watch it storm. I love it.
That's I used to do that, and no kidding, I'll send you the pictures. A tree so big around that you and I could not have touched hands, that big, fell right where I would have been sitting when we got hit by a tornado, and I would have died. And it fell on the house and destroyed the front porch, would have killed me, no question. It was the one time that I've ever been afraid of a storm, and I got everybody huddled together. And the bathroom, me, my wife, two kids, and a dog. And I'll show you the pictures. So I don't do that anymore. I don't want to go looking for another co-host.
I don't have that many bigger trees, and I'm built different, Dave. I would just get out of the way quickly.
Not in this one.
Those
that are in Chattanooga know how big of a storm that was.
My man over here lifts every morning and can't get a tree and is scared of a tree.
Okay, well, I'll show you the pictures.
I thought you had that SEC toughness, Dave.
Oh, well, not when it comes to like an 8-ton tree. We want you to be a part of Hooker's Corner. Why? Because you can win fantastic prizes thanks to Sports Treasures. Over 5 million Sports Treasures in North Knoxville. And they are going to provide a Pick Six Glossies autographed by Tennessee's defensive secondary, and we will give that away at the end of the month. So you have to be a paid subscriber, just $9.98 a month for increased recruiting coverage. As a matter of fact, there's a new recruiting story up there right now that you can check out thanks to our own Stacey Oliver. And all you have to do is join Hooker's Corner for $9.98 a month, and you'll be eligible for that monthly prize. Now, if you want to take it a step further, you got to think about big time, because we just hit 6,000 subscribers, guys. And if you're even a free member, you can be a free member. You will be registered for our Rick Terry's Great 8 Garmin Challenge. When we hit 8,000 subscribers, we will give away a Garmin provided by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Check out those Fire Opals, affordable game day jewelry. So here's the deal. You can be a free member, subscribe to the station, and you're eligible for the Garmin when we hit 8,000 subscribers, which is going to be very soon. All right, Caleb, do we want to get to the stat of the day now? Is that where we are, or what have we got going on?
Let's save the stat of the day. We need to talk a little bit about the key Vols against Oklahoma on Saturday.
Okay, so coming up, we will do just that. Key Tennessee players coming up. How about you give me 1 minute, and I'll be right back with Caleb Calhoun off the Hook Sports.
I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
The 4 or 5 balls to watch coming up in the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. We say kind of 4 instead of 5 because it fits into our 4 downs element that we certainly like. Josh Pate was fantastic, and I would certainly check him out if you're a college football fan. I think he does a great job. He's incredibly talented and is really good. So I caught a little bit of heat there in the message board because we called out a radio show host in Oklahoma that said Josh Heupel had a turkey neck?
Yes.
So people said, no, Dave, you're being a hypocrite. You made fun of Sam Pittman's chest. I did. And that's fair to call me out on that. And I thought that since I have once been a bigger guy, that it was playful, but I certainly don't want to offend anybody. So, and I think Sam Pittman's a heck of a coach. So we'll preclude from making fun of people's general appearance.
The latter
unless he's a really bad person like Urban Meyer. And then I can make fun of whatever I want to, right? But Sam Pittman's a good dude.
I know. I feel bad that he's not. But you're wrong. He's not a heck of a coach. He's not a good coach. But I feel bad for him that he's not a good coach. I think he's a good guy.
To me, heck of a coach is to get all that he got out of Arkansas. To me, he's a heck of an offensive line coach. To me, he's a heck of a coach to get what he got out of Arkansas. Do I think he's one of the top 40 head coaches in the nation? Absolutely not. So heck of a coach. If you work your way to that point, you're a heck of a coach.
Okay, that's fair.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, you're right. I mean, I would literally call 150 people before I called Sam Pittman if Josh Heupel decided to go elsewhere and I'm Danny White. So, no, that's not who I would call. We have the stat of the day up and ready. Caleb, we ready to do that?
Yes, because we're talking about Oklahoma, and their biggest weakness right now is their inability to run the ball. We're going to get into that a little bit later with the 5 key balls to watch versus Oklahoma. But here's a good sign for Tennessee. And their only win ever against Oklahoma, it was because they could run the ball. Tennessee, in the first game they played Oklahoma, which was the 1939 Orange Bowl, to cap off their first SEC championship season, their second undefeated season in school history, beat Oklahoma 17-0. You want to know what the yardage differential was on the ground in that game, Dave?
I'm ready.
205 rushing yards for Tennessee to 25 for Oklahoma.
Wow.
Bob Fox and George Capago.
If that occurs again, how does this game turn out?
If that occurs again, this game is over by halftime. I mean, if Oklahoma gets provided Tennessee takes care of the ball, put it that way. I will say this. I've covered a couple of games. You've covered one. Remember the 2000 Tennessee-Florida game where Tennessee had over 200 yards rushing and Florida had like less than 50 and Tennessee still lost because they settled for so many field goals and A.J. Suggs threw a terrible pick six and Jabbar Gaffney didn't catch a touchdown pass that was ruled a touchdown.
And I think that was the first time in like 8 years the winning team had not won the rushing battle.
It was. That's a great call. And it was – so it can happen if you make a ton of other mistakes. I don't see this Tennessee team making those type of mistakes. Nico Iamaleava is not A.J. Suggs. So I think we can safely say that.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and post a new poll question. The MVP for the Vols against Oklahoma will be Nico Iamaleava, Dylan Sampson, James Pearce, or who do you want to throw in there?
Nico Iamaleava, Dylan Sampson, James Pearce, or just say other, because I mean you're going to see that you're on my wavelength with what you're doing.
Okay.
Right there.
Well, we should be. We work together every day. All right. 4 Downs now is brought to you by our fantastic friends at City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Here we go.
4 Downs. 4 questions, 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show. 4 Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Got a bunch of people in that YouTube page who have not hit the like button. We need that. Subscribe. And also, we want you to turn the notifications on. So ring that bell. All right, let's start with Cooper Mays saying this. Oh, no, Cooper Mays didn't play the timpani. Cooper Mays, what did you say?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Cooper. That's much better.
Although with the Law and Order music, Cooper Mays would be a great sheriff or a great detective, wouldn't he? Could you imagine if Cooper Mays comes to arrest you?
Yeah, I would be scared. Mike, I think you're lying to me. I know the truth. You're right, Cooper. I did it. I'm the dude.
They should have him interrogate Diddy.
All right, so it's 5 players to watch. Number 5 before we start counting down some downs.
Number 5 on my list is, I named one person, but it's really a collective. And I'm talking obviously about my guy, my fellow Memphian, Amari Thomas. But it's really the entire defensive line, because the entire interior of the defensive line should absolutely, they might be getting blocked by air in this game. And so they should go off. And Amari Thomas is the leader of that unit. He's the anchor, so he takes the number 5 slot.
Don't be surprised if Jackson Moya makes a big play in this game.
And I threw him out there as a name, so I wouldn't at all.
Okay, I'm just a little bit of insight, a little bit of what I'm hearing. Don't be surprised.
Coop here, first down.
Who's next in the players to watch, Caleb?
So next in the players to watch, and this is going to be kind of interesting to a lot of people, but just bear with me on it real quick, and that would be the guy who just said first down, Cooper Mays.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Oklahoma, whatever else you think about them, has a great defensive line. They are top 5 in pass rush. They are top 10 in yards allowed per carry on the ground, or top 5 in sacks, top 10 in fewest yards allowed per carry on the ground, and top 25 in fewest rush yards allowed per game. They have a great rush defense.
Yes.
And they stop the run and they get after the quarterback. And that can win you a lot of games, even if you're struggling offensively. The entire offensive line is, we're talking about Dylan Sampson, maybe Deshaun Bishop, all these guys. It's going to be the entire offensive line that's going to have to deliver for Tennessee. When I say the entire offensive line, kind of similar to an Amari Thomas, who's the anchor of the entire offensive line, Cooper Mays. This is the type of game where Cooper Mays becomes an All-American.
What if I told you that this is actually an easier assignment for Cooper Mays than NC State was?
What? Okay, now I need to hear this. How is this an easier assignment?
Okay, because Cooper had a guy lined up on his nose the whole entire time. He was, and I think NC State's going to prove, even though they run that 3-3, that I have, 3-3-5. I think they're going to prove to have a pretty good trio of defensive linemen. So I can tell you that having somebody lined up on your nose is not a lot of fun. I mean, you don't get leverage. You don't dictate as much. So while Coop will be playing better players, the scheme actually is more to his liking. That's not even telling me that. That's me knowing what he thought about the NC State game. So he didn't say that per se, but I actually think this is an opportunity for Coop to actually go out there. He feels great. He's doing a fantastic job, and really challenge for first team All-American center. I think this is where you make a statement, and I think that Tennessee's offensive line, and I'll have my pick tomorrow. But that's where I stand on Coop. I think he's going to have a really good game.
Cooper Mays here, second down.
All right, who's next?
All right, so next on the list, it's a knock on how bad their rushing attack is, and I give everybody that. However, Jackson Arnold is a mobile quarterback, so Tennessee needs to contain Jackson Arnold in the pocket to make sure that they keep Oklahoma's offense looking as bad as it has been. And that means Keenan Pili is crucial in this game. Keenan Pili's got to stay at home. Oklahoma's got a bad rush offense. Their only threat is Jackson Arnold as a dual threat quarterback, and that means Keenan Pili. He may not rack up a lot of stats, but Keenan Pili staying at home is going to be crucial for the defense to do what it wants to do.
I think Keenan Pili is going to have a great game. I think Keenan Pili will have 8 tackles, 2 for a loss.
Oh,
I think he's really, really good. All right. I forgot the down. What down are we on?
We're at third down.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Who's next, Caleb?
You brought him up, and it's time. It's time for him to explode the way everybody expected him to. And I mean, obviously, James Pearce. Tennessee's defensive front should absolutely give Oklahoma's offensive front hell. And if it is a defensive slugfest, they can't pull James Pearce. And I think now Tennessee has shown enough that you can't sell out to double team James Pearce, as teams have been doing, or run away from him because they're good enough on the other side. So, yes, James Pearce, I think, should get a ton. I think I got 2 sacks from James Pearce in this game.
I almost feel like they're waiting, or that if there's one thing that they have held back, it's James Pearce, who was a factor against NC State. He doesn't have a sack yet, but he was definitely a factor. Only played 10 plays against Chattanooga. They may be holding back some offensive stuff, as Jimmy alluded to. I wouldn't doubt it. But I think the one thing they're holding back is some unique things they can do with Pearce that they didn't have to show against NC State, because that game got out of hand so quickly. All right, the player you should most watch in the Tennessee-Oklahoma game, the most important is Caleb going to take the easy way out and go with that quarterback guy. Work trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting, all about time. Work Trucks saves your time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle from Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an iPod work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, it's Work Trucks. That's a fact with an X. Work Trucks, they'll have you fit to a T. Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, there it is online. Those are some nice trucks. Work Trucks with an X. If you're a contractor, you got to know them. Work Trucks, LLC.com. What down is it, Coop?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. Tennessee's top player to watch, brought to you by Work Trucks, is?
Tennessee's top player to watch is the guy who it is time for his Heisman moment to come. I told you guys this at the beginning of the year. I told you guys this from the minute the Iowa game ended in January, that the Oklahoma game would be the moment that the national media can't stop salivating over Nico Iamaleava. And that's exactly what they're going to do here. I think Josh Heupel has prepared for this game, and I think he has prepped to specifically turn Nico Iamaleava into a superstar and into a Heisman winner. And here's where it's extra personal. We haven't talked about this all week, Dave. We talked about Bob Stoops forcing the offense on Josh Heupel, which annoyed him, which got him fired, which was unfair. We've also talked about then he brought in Lincoln Riley to run the offense Josh Heupel wanted to run, and he got the quarterbacks Josh Heupel always wanted to recruit, Baker Mayfield, people like that. What happened, Dave? Lincoln Riley coached 3 Heisman winners at Oklahoma, I believe. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, or was it 2? You guys could correct me. Maybe it was just 2. But either way, multiple Heisman winners at Oklahoma with quarterbacks that Josh Heupel always wanted to be able to coach, and Bob Stoops wouldn't let him. Nor would he let Heupel run the offense. Heupel was also screwed out of the Heisman in 2000 in his mind. He wants this game to make up for all of that and to turn Nico Iamaleava into the Heisman favorite in college football. And I think he's going to force that to happen if he has to.
So this is it. You're all in. You've said it before. And so far, what Caleb has predicted has been right. Things have gone incredibly well for Tennessee and Nico. I think we all had high expectations, but Caleb, I think the general fan has been a little bit blown away by Nico and what he's been able to do this year. That we've shared it. We have a lot of insight into the program but I don't think that the average fan expected things to be this good. Portions of the program brought to you by Asia Cafe. Hey, that's where I'm eating tonight. Treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine, handcrafted from guarded family recipes. 5 locations to choose from. AsiaCafe.org. That's AsiaCafe.org. And don't forget about the 6-to-1 Brazilian Cocoa Energy Booster Premix Instant White Coffee, the Golden Label coffee bag with Philip Bloom's grandfather and grandmother right there. Since 1909, that's the Lim Dynasty right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Again, AsiaCafe.org. So we're going to play a little bit of bracketology. I'm not sure exactly how Caleb is going to pull this off because a couple of reasons. I've got questions because it's so early in the season, but Caleb feels like he has a good feel for what's going to happen in the college football playoffs. But I want to address one question by the message board. Was it Dave or Caleb who said Peyton Lewis was going to have more yards than Sampson? I think that was you, but I'm going to defend Caleb on that. I still think that Peyton Lewis is going to at least take over the second team role by midseason. So maybe you were a little too high on Peyton Lewis, or Caleb, maybe we were both a little too low on Deshaun Bishop.
Maybe I need to listen more to Josh Pate, who talked about people overreacting to what they see in college football week to week and not thinking about the overall. And I've been doing that with Dylan Sampson. So you know what? I was high on Dylan Sampson as a potential Heisman contender. I'm changing it. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going down with the ship. Peyton Lewis is going to take the starting job from Dylan Sampson. It'll be after the Oklahoma game, and he's going to finish with more yards than Dylan Sampson. I'm going down with the ship. Bring it. Come on, guys.
Own it. Own it. No, I don't think that's going to happen. The MVP for the Vols against Oklahoma will be, that's our poll question. Vote on that right now. Nico gets 31% of the vote. Dylan Sampson gets 31% of the vote. James Pearce gets 28% of the vote. Other 9%. And Keenan Pili would top my list of others. That's who I think can be a superstar. Now, he might not pan out in the NFL because he's had a lot of injuries and he's older. But that's who I think can be a superstar that really was not on our superstar watch list. I've been astounded by his sideline-to-sideline speed. I kind of had him envisioned as the Mike Singletary type that was, I had him envisioned as that. But what he is the Ray Lewis type, because Ray Lewis played middle backer and could get sideline to sideline. He's the best true linebacker, in my opinion, to ever play football. I don't count Lawrence Taylor because Lawrence Taylor was like an edge rusher. He was allowed to line up wherever he wanted to. Lawrence Taylor's the best defensive player in the history of football, but Ray Lewis may be the best linebacker. Keenan Pili may prove to be the best true linebacker, not a James Pearce who's an edge rusher and can move around and do things and drop into coverage. But finish this statement before we get to your bracketology. Keenan Pili can be the Vols' best true linebacker since.
Jalen Reese-Maben. Jalen Reese-Maben was a heck of a linebacker for Tennessee.
That's good. But I think you would agree, though, that when Keenan Pili brings the fury, he's bringing a little bit more than Jalen Reese-Maben.
Well, here's the underrated part about Keenan Pili. And guys, bear with me because this is a little bit of getting into the weeds of talking ball a little bit. But Tim Banks, one of the issues for the pass defense 2 years ago, we put it all on the secondary. What a lot of y'all didn't see was that Aaron Beasley had to be out of position, and Jeremy Banks didn't have a lot of lateral quickness. And so the only type of blitz packages or the only type of stunts and schemes that Tim Banks could draw up were all vertical. They all had to be vertical, and that limited. That's why Florida with Anthony Richardson was able to get back into the game late, because you can exploit vertical attacks. And I think Keenan Pili, by having the lateral quickness that he does, Dave, that allows so much more creativity for Tim Banks to do what he wants to do. And this isn't something new. Lateral quickness is the most underrated part of a middle linebacker. It took John Chavis how many years to figure out, I need a linebacker with lateral quickness to stop Steve Spurrier's fun and gun. I mean, and then they try to act like, we really cracked the code on this. I'm like, no, you just needed an extra fast player out there.
Okay, you're not as old as me, but you nailed it. because my first favorite defensive player was Tyrone Hines. Who's old enough to remember Tyrone Hines? Linebacker, I believe, wore number 40. Anybody out there? If you are, say so on the message board. So basically what he could do was blitz and play the run. Okay, but he was probably on that team one of Tennessee's better defenders and a team leader. So, and very little lateral. So what did they do? They went out and got guys like Al Wilson, Dominique Stevenson, Raynoch Thompson. A lot of those guys played running back in high school. So they had lateral. So that was even probably slightly before your time, but you absolutely nailed it. That was a conscious effort to go after guys that had more mobility. And the thing that blew me away, and it's very similar to when Josh Heupel sits down and tells an offensive lineman that you're going to enjoy being a part of this because, as Josh Pate said earlier, they're being negatively recruited against because they run so many plays. But to convince them that, no, you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. You're going to have a great time. You're going to win championships. You may play a little bit more here, but we're also going to run the ball. Reminds me of the argument that Philip Fulmer, or the sales pitch, I should say, that Philip Fulmer used to have with running backs in high school that were oftentimes the best athletes on their team and talking them into willingly move to linebacker. That was one of Philip Fulmer's most underrated maneuvers as a recruiter. How many guys that he put, and let's take Fred White. Okay, Fred White, people, I mean, you don't think this, but he was about to run in the Olympics, and he shows up and they have so many corners, they want to move him to safety, so they tell him to put on weight. But he ran 10-2 in the 100 meters. But anyway, the whole team was selfless, which ties it all back to why this team reminds me of the 98 team, because of the chemistry, because there is accountability in the locker room. Josh Pate said something, and then we're going to get to bracketology, and also we're going to get to stat of the day. But Josh Pate said something recently on the sidelines at Georgia about how Georgia's issues off the field were absolutely ridiculous. He's right. And he also said that he believes the coaching staff has done all they can to intervene. I think he's right too. But at some point, somebody has to say, one of the players has to say, hey, listen, dip blank, don't do that anymore in your car. So another incident came up, Caleb, but it's internal leadership. I don't care how great of a leader Josh Heupel is. If he doesn't have internal leadership with his teammate, with his team and his players, like Cooper Mays, Keenan Pili, I could list off some other great leaders I've been told about. If he doesn't have that, he can be the best leader in the world, and it doesn't matter.
No, you're right. That's very true. And that's a great point. And the only time it doesn't matter, like, to have those type of leaders is once you build up the cachet Nick Saban built up. Like when he was at Alabama, Nick Saban didn't need good leaders for Alabama. Nick Saban, you know this, Dave. He had such a stature about him that, like, it just naturally got players to fall in line, didn't it?
Well, I would say that those players fell in line to be internal leaders because of him, but you still had an Alvin Kamara, for instance, that transferred out because he didn't want to be any part of it.
Well, that's a good point. And also, maybe was this more about Nick Saban? Was he very good at evaluating character guys to be leaders on the trail? Like, he knew that this guy could be a leader for my team. And
yes, and I think Josh Heupel is very good at that. Bracketology.
That was actually, that's actually one of the things that derailed for him in the 2000s. I think as Georgia got good again, as other schools got good, he couldn't be as selective on character guys he wanted to recruit as he was probably in the 90s.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The only smart thing that Derek Dooley ever said is there's a bell curve, and that you want your guys to be in the middle, but you'll take a risk on some guys that are elite talents that may have a checkered past, where on the other end, you've got to have some guys that are great leaders, but don't have the same skill set. Will Brooks, prime example right there. 2 minutes bracketology off the hook sports.
45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2018 Ford Mustang Convertible, 24,550, 2023 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend, 29,789, 2022 Ford Escape SEL all-wheel drive, 26,975. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
It just occurred to me that Caleb might not even have an idea why that dun 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 song plays. Do you know why that song plays?
Isn't that from a detective show?
It's from People's Court.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I hated watching court TV. I hated court TV.
It was the worst. And that Judge Judy, I swear, if somebody said, Dave, you have to run a mile, and I do no cardio, guys, I only lift. But if you told me that you had to run 2 miles or you had to sit through 2 episodes of Judge Judy, I'm trotting down the road.
She did this like speech last year on like, if you want to make it, you just people who struggle, they're just not working hard enough, and they, you just got to bust your A to make it. And I mean, I guess that's okay advice, but to say everybody's struggling is because they didn't work hard. You have a show that you do 1 day a week, and you made millions doing it 1 day a week. Shut the F up about busting your A and your lectures on to anybody on that when you work 1 day a week for millions of dollars.
It's National Cheeseburger Day as well. So as we get into bracketology, I have a new fun poll question for you. As I'll ask you what cheese is best on a cheeseburger. But Caleb, bring up the screen and let's talk some bracketology. And I'm interested to see where you go with this because we want to make this a reoccurring segment. But quite frankly, if you drop flat on your face, we're never going to do it again.
Yes, and we are trying to be the Jerry Palm and the Joe Lunardi of college football, guys. So we need your help with this, okay?
Okay.
So I'm bringing up the bracketology. Now, my bracketology is not what I think is going to happen. It is what would be the college football playoff right now if the season ended right now. Oops, I apologize. I'd like to... There we go. Dave did it right. So yeah, it's what would the college football playoff be if the season ended right now? And as you can see, we're setting it up with the conference champions, with the seeding, and how everything would go. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and start over here. I'm going to go to every different spot. But let's start on the left side. I think Georgia's the 1 seed right now. Dave, you can hey now, or that's crazy me on what you believe on that, based on production.
The 1 seed overall?
As of right now, yes.
No, I'd say Texas is the 1 seed.
So you're going to say that's crazy?
Okay, yeah. No.
I think Georgia's win over Clemson outweighs Texas's win over Michigan. As of right now, I think Clemson would beat Michigan.
Okay, well, you got history on your side because Georgia plays down to opponents, did so against Kentucky, and might end up winning it all. So, all right, I can roll with that. What else you got?
All right, so yeah, so that's my that's my 1 seed. My 2 seed, because again, the top 4 conference champions are the 4 highest seeds, is USC. I think they're the best team in the Big Ten right now. They are the top ranked team in the Big Ten, and so they are the 2 seed for me.
That's crazy. I can't see how you could put them above Texas.
No, because only one SEC team can be in the top 4, Dave. This is not. This is a playoff projection.
Oh, okay. This is not how I wanted it. This is how I wanted it 1 to 12. Okay. Then, okay, I'll roll with that. I think Ohio State is better than Southern California, but we'll see.
Well, y'all are going to find this controversial, my take on Ohio State, because this is about what you've done to this point. My number 3 seed, and they shouldn't be a number 3 seed, and this is how why Josh and I talked about this, why the College Football Playoff Committee screwed it up so badly with this seeding. Kansas State's the number 3 seed because you got to have the conference champions as the top 4 seeds.
You suck, you jackass.
That's for the NCAA or College Football Playoff Committee or whoever in the world put this thing together.
Like, you're
I had lunch with John Adams yesterday, and I feel like sometimes this college football playoff thing is analogous to our ongoing election, and that is, I'm not really sure who's in charge. But I'm not going to get into politics. I just don't know who's pulling the strings anymore. All right, Caleb, who's next?
All right, so next is the number 4 seed, and the other seed to get the first round bye is the ACC champion, which will be Miami. Those are the top 4 seeds that get first round byes.
I can't argue with you, but I mean, right now, I think those 2 teams are barely in the. Well, I think particularly Miami's barely in the top 8, and I just don't like the way this is. So I'm going to have issues with you every week.
No, I know it's stupid, but this is just how they're doing it. My projections are how they're doing it. So let me move over here. Right. So the 2 teams.
I'm not calling them stupid. You can do stupid things. It's like the old coaching acumen that Butch Jones never knew. You can call somebody a bleep, but you can't. Or you can't call somebody a bleep, but you can say quit playing like a bleep.
Can we call Butch Jones? Can we call Butch Jones stupid?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's go down here. All right, so let's talk about the play-in, the first round teams. So on the left side, I've got 5 seed Texas because they're the second best team. But if you're the second best team in the same conference as the best team, you become the 5 seed because that's how this works. And I got them playing Northern Illinois in the first round, 12 seed Northern Illinois. Because Northern Illinois is my group of 5 teams.
Gravy, my goodness, poor Northern Illinois. I mean, they would get hammered, and they would play at Texas.
They would play at Texas.
You might as well just sabotage the plane.
And here's my thing, Dave. Look at this. You're Texas. Would you rather play Northern Illinois at home in the first round to get to the second round, or have to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game to get to the second round? This is why
I'm always going to say this. I would rather. I've thought about this actually in the interim since we first discussed it. I'm always going to side with playing less games. Now, that doesn't mean if Tennessee makes the SEC championship game, they should throw it. I think that's absurd, but I understand your point. But I'm always, I see what, like last year in October, November, what Coop has gone through and how beat up he was, and he held up his fingers and they were like crooked. So knowing that and getting to know players more than really I ever have, and there's more on that to come, by the way. So hit that like and subscribe button and turn the notifications on. But all that being said, I will always side on playing one less game.
Okay, well, that's playing one less game if you don't really show up for the SEC title game. If you choose just not play, that's the equivalent of not playing a game if you throw it.
Caleb's crazy bracketology brought to you by Quality Tire Pros. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work is covered by nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd or online, qualitytirepros.com. My car will be there very shortly. Tell Bo that Off the Hook Sports said hello. All right. Who's next?
So I'm going to move over here. I'm going to move over to this side. So with Kansas State getting the bye, the teams that'll be competing to play Kansas State will be 6 seed Alabama and 11 seed Penn State, and Alabama will get that game at home.
See, that to me is what the college football playoff should be about. Those two teams would not traditionally play each other. That has a lot of appeal, even though I think you're too high on Penn State and they won't be in that position. That to me is what it's all about. Mixing these teams that would never play and have different styles. Bingo, bango. That's gold, Jerry, as they used to say on Seinfeld. I'd take that.
All righty. So up on the Northwest, let me go up here then, because the next play-in game you're going to see, and you guys can see where I'm putting Tennessee. I'll talk about that in a second, but I think the college football playoff, Dave, they're going to see things for the purposes of a TV show. So I think Iowa State right now is one of my teams is one of my top wildcard teams based on production to this point, guys. I don't think they'll be in there, but if they were done today, based on production, Iowa State would be in. And I think they would be slotted to play Missouri because somebody would want to rekindle an old Big 12 rivalry. So 9 seed Iowa State would play 8 seed Missouri to go play number 1 seed Georgia.
Hey now. I like how you're working in the fact that they are going to manipulate this for storylines because they are. All right.
They are.
Next.
They are, which is why next on the other
If there's
side.
any chance for Tennessee to play Oklahoma in the playoffs, that's going to happen.
Oh, exactly. Right now, Oklahoma's not in yet, but Ole Miss is. And if Ole Miss is in the playoff, they're going to manipulate Tennessee getting a home game against Ole Miss, which is why Tennessee is my 7 seed and Ole Miss is my 10 seed for that matter.
I will tell you this, whether or not you want to believe it, because he plays for Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart's for real. Jackson Dart's for real. The two best quarterbacks in the SEC right now are Jackson Dart and Nico Iamaleava.
That's hot.
And also, here's why they would put them in the bracket to face USC. Lane Kiffin versus Josh Heupel, and the winner goes to face Lincoln Riley. That's just offense galore for a TV show.
Hot.
Love it.
So let me give you my, before we get out of here, my first 4 out. And my
Could Lane Kiffin win a championship by only playing teams that he's coached for?
That would be epic, actually. Because then he could face Alabama based on this.
Oh, the goal. Yeah, I love it. Or the Raiders, because the Raiders are almost bad enough to lose a game in the college football playoff.
That is very true. All right, so moving over, I'm going to go to the first 4 out. Oklahoma is my top team out right now because they just looked ugly, but they've actually played quality opponents. And let Buckeye Nation come for me. But Ohio State is my second team. They're not in the college football playoff right now. They haven't played enough teams. They haven't played anybody good. Oregon's my 3rd top team out, and Utah's my 4th of my first 4 out. Tell me where I'm wrong, Dave. Any of these teams?
I think Ohio State's going to be in there.
I think they will too, but based on the resume right now, do they belong?
I mean, I see your argument. Well, yeah, I would think they belong. I think they've looked pretty clean. I mean, they looked okay. I mean,
against nobody, against Air.
Well, I agree, but you should say the same thing about Tennessee.
They played a Power 5 school that was in the top 25.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Move on. Okay. I'm getting the feel for this. I'll be better in week 2.
Okay. So now here are my top 5 group of 5 for right now. Because that, by the way, this is the relevant part because the group of 5 gets an automatic bid. So there's 5. So I'm going to have this too each week. Northern Illinois is my top group of 5 team right now because they beat Notre Dame. That's why they're the 12th seed in there. Just behind them are UNLV, Washington State, Memphis, and Toledo. For context, Dave, Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. UNLV beat Houston. Washington State beat Washington. Memphis beat Florida State. Toledo beat Mississippi State. I don't think there's any question that of those Northern Illinois has the best win right now, right? Of the group of 5.
Yes, I can say Northern Illinois has the best win. No question.
Yep. So that's my top 5 right now. I am very heavy on the MAC. But this is where the 12-team playoff I have to concede is making things more exciting. Dave, you're not there yet. I'm already there, but you're not there. Group of 5 football is getting really fun to watch because teams know what's at stake. I don't know if you saw. Did you see?
Yeah,
Sorry.
but here's the problem: is the Power 4, Power 5 teams, whatever we decide to call it, when all the dust settles, they're going to raid the group of 5. So you better enjoy the action now because it ain't going to be around in 2 or 3 years.
You're probably right, but that makes it fun this year.
Mhm.
Did you see that Memphis Florida State game? How many Tiger fans filled up Doak Campbell Stadium?
Oh my gosh, here he goes with Memphis.
No, but did you see it though? Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
And it was crazy. By the way, this is a program that just 10 years ago couldn't get 4,000 people in their home stadium. And they may have had 4,000 people. They may have had twice that much at Florida State Stadium because Group of 5 football has playoff implications now.
Last look, we saved the best for last. The stat of the day brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Local vision. Look at me. I've got no glasses. I've got no contacts. That's because I had LASIK. They're local doctors who do incredible surgeries for cataracts, LASIK, and the local vision centers. They bring you the last look, which is the stat of the day.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
All right, brother, what do you got? Stat of the day? Oh, we've already done the stat. Did we do the stat of the day?
Yeah, the stat of the day was 205 rushing yards to Oklahoma's 25 when Tennessee beat them in the Orange Bowl in 1939.
My bad. You got another one? No, we'll just wrap it up. Thank you, Josh Pate. Thank you, Jimmy Hyams. Thanks to all that listen. I hope you enjoyed the program. We're with you weekdays at 10 a.m. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker.